Hey guys, John Campea here. Thank you for visiting my YouTube channel, and this is a companion video. Now, what are companion videos? Well, you see, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take live questions in the second half of the show, but sometimes we don't have enough time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in. But if you sent in those questions, I want to make sure they get answered properly in a video, so we gather up those questions and bring them here and answer them in companion videos. So, without wasting any time, let's dive right into it. We're going to start things off here with Lonzo, who writes in, Ahead, Galactus, Kang, Magneto, Omega Red, God Butcher. Now, this is in reference to a topic that was on the show earlier, talking about, are the MCU's best days behind them or the best days still ahead? Now, a lot of people like myself feel like there are still great things ahead for the MCU, but the best days are behind, the big record-breaking days. Now, you're right. Great comic book characters like Galactus, Kang, Magneto, Omega Red, God Butcher. Yeah, we got all these great characters, but who cares? That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Like, look at, I've always bring up Fantastic Four. Doctor Doom was one of the greatest comic book villains of all time. They've used Doctor Doom as a villain in movies like, what, 3 or 4 times? At any rate, never works out. It doesn't matter if they're a great comic book character or not. It only matters if they get executed well and done right in a movie. And if they do, then it doesn't matter if it's a popular comic book character or not, other than it's kind of cool to see it. So yeah, Doctor Doom proves that you can put Kang or Galactus or Omega Red or God Butcher or anybody else you want in a movie. It doesn't mean it's going to be any good any more than any other character. It just gives us somebody that we recognize, which is kind of cool. All right, Amir writes, 1 of 3. Just a thought, because it's something that often perplexes me. I think sometimes as genre fans, and it's been especially noticeable in comic fans, some people tend to enjoy their geekdom being non-mainstream. Well, that's true. And so when a genre or the genre of fandom becomes mainstream, example in the form of comic book movies becoming insanely popular, we start hearing complaints like, that's not true to the comics, that's not the real character, etc., whilst ignoring the quality of the film. So perhaps, in a paradox way, it's more the popularity of the movies that bothers some people and less the accuracy to the source material. Just a thought, and might be true of some people, but by no means generalizing. Okay, so I see what you're saying there, and listen, I've come across this, right? We often talk about the fact that I believe that the primary job of a filmmaker, especially one that's making a film based on a book or a comic book or some other pre-existing source material, the primary job and the first responsibility of the filmmakers is not to make something as close to the source material as possible, but rather their primary job is to make the best movie possible. And sometimes that means you need to deviate from the source material, because just because something works on a printed page does not mean it'll work well in a 2-hour movie. You have to adapt. And I've often made the argument that when you look at some of the best comic book movies ever made, movies like Captain America Civil War, that's nothing like the comic book Civil War. There's a few concepts that are taken from Civil War and translated to the movie Civil War, but other than that, it's a completely different movie. Movies like X-Men Days of Future Past, again, nothing like the comic book X-Men Days of Future Past. Yeah, there are some concepts taken from it, but it's really because the filmmakers knew they had to make the best movie possible. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people who were originally fans of that original source material, of course they feel a little bit of ownership to it. I think that's natural, and there's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, we as fans of the original source material kind of want to see the original source material as it was in our books or in our comic books on screen. I get that too. But we also have to understand that these movies are not being made just for us. They're also being made for the wider movie-going audience, and they're not going to buy into just the source material translated onto screen necessarily. So you got to make the best movie possible. So my thoughts have always been, when you can be true to the source material, be true to the source material. And where you need to deviate from the source material in order to make the best movie possible, go do that too. And again, I believe a lot of the best comic book movies ever made follow that principle. Anyway, so I like your observation, Amir. All right, Anonymous writes, with everything going on between Sony and Disney, I think the MCU is going to be even better than it was before. New talent coming in at an even higher rate, and Spider-Man spin-offs that look to be connected. As Rob would say, I'm in, bring it on. And again, I don't disagree, Anonymous. I think there are great days ahead. I think we're going to get wonderful stuff from the MCU moving forward. Absolutely. But I still think the best days are behind. But as I was saying in the show earlier today, you know, there's never been a crime, gangster, mobster movie as good as The Godfather. But does that mean we haven't gotten some excellent, fantastic crime, gangster, mafia movies since then? Of course we have. And it's been great. Sure, it's never been as great as The Godfather, but that's all right. It's okay. So I believe there are great days ahead for the MCU. I just happen to think that the best days, much like The Godfather, are behind. That doesn't mean we just still don't have some great stuff ahead. But who knows? Never doubt Kevin Feige. All right, Anthony Lucolano writes, just finished watching Once Upon a Time in the West, and wow, that was a great slow burn of a movie whose tension built until its explosive and satisfying climax like a volcano waiting to erupt. And you know, one of the silver linings in all this nonsense and the self-quarantining that we've been having to do is that a lot of people are getting caught up on some classic movies that they've never had a chance to see before. And a lot of those are Westerns. This one's a Sergio Leone one that had Henry Fonda and the guy who's behind Charles Bronson in it. And it's another great one. But again, so many people are discovering these. But what's really exciting to see how many people are writing in and talking about classic movies they're going back to see that are actually Westerns and rediscovering the Western genre. Because the Western genre has really kind of limped along. I mean, there have been some great Westerns, but we really haven't seen a lot of true Westerns in like the last 20 years. We got some gems, but it's really nice seeing a lot of people going and discovering some of these Westerns. All right, next one comes to us from James Hoffman, who writes, what are your predictions for the Picard season finale next week? Well, I can't go into that because I don't want to spoil things for people who haven't been able to watch Picard yet or haven't watched the newest episode yet. I will say this. I have loved this season of Picard, this first initial season. I have loved it. And I even know some friends of mine who love Picard that didn't like this latest episode. And so I watched it expecting not to like it myself. I really liked the latest episode too. I mean, I didn't like it as much as I did some of the others. But anyway, I've loved this season of Picard. I have no idea what to predict other than Jean-Luc Picard will find a way to save the universe again. That's my one prediction only. And I've really liked it. Now, there are a bunch of people who don't like it. You know, Robert Meyer Burnett is one of the guys, very outspoken. He doesn't like it at all. And that's cool. But I have really enjoyed it. And we'll see what happens in the finale. All right. Anthony Lucolano writes, now on to Once Upon a Time in America. It's great when you get to start going on these roles and catching up on these films. I'm glad you're doing that, Anthony. All right. Robert Tari writes, hey, John, loving the recommendations. I really do like doing those film recommendations in the show right now. I think a lot of people are having a good time with that. Would you, Rob, or the crew ever consider doing movie watch-alongs during this time of all of us being at home? I mean, it's tough doing movie watch-alongs because from a logistic point of view, doing movie watch-alongs, there's a technical challenge and how do I get everything set up in order to do it, but it's also a huge time commitment because it's literally hours of doing it. And I find not a lot of people actually watch-alongs. You know what I mean? I find not a lot of people watch them, relatively speaking. So I don't know. I will consider it though, because it's funny because Rob and I actually were talking about it about a certain, we were joking about it with Picard. And I said to Rob, wouldn't it be funny, because he really doesn't like Picard, I really do. So I said, wouldn't it be funny if we were able to sit down and do a watch along with the entire first season of Picard with you and I giving back and forth commentary? It could be fun. So I'm not going to say no. I'm saying it's not likely that I will, but it's not impossible either, so I will keep my eyes open on that. All right, Nate Dogg writes, you recommended Hero the other day. Zhang Yimou, the director, is one of my favorites. Other great films by him are Curse of the Golden Flower, starring Chow Yun-fat, House of Flying Daggers, which I love, Raise the Red Lantern, which I have not seen, and Judo. Have you seen any of these? Well, I've seen a couple of them. I've not seen Raise the Lantern or Judo, if I'm pronouncing that right. I haven't seen those two. At least, not that I can remember off the top of my head. Sometimes I say I haven't seen a movie, and then I check it up, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I did see that. I just totally forgot. But I don't think I've seen those two. House of Flying Daggers, another one I really like, also visually gorgeous. And that's the thing that I really loved about Hero. It's a great story in and of itself. It just is. But what has always made it stood out for me and will make it one of my really special films I think about is it is just the most beautiful film I've ever seen. Visually. It is visually the most beautiful film I've ever seen. where every single scene has its own unique color palette, and then every frame is a complete work of art with that color palette. It's just a gorgeous, you could take any frame of that movie and make it into a poster and hang it on your wall. It's just gorgeous. And House of Flying Daggers is also a stunningly beautiful film. I don't know if he used the same cinematographer for it or not. Not quite as good as Hero, but also quite beautiful. Thanks for making that up, Nate Dogg. All right, Jeremy Shishabu writes, birthday today. Show has got me through a lot, man. Well, happy birthday to you, Jeremy. I hope you have a great day, and more importantly, that you have a great year ahead of you. So happy birthday to you, sir, and I'm glad you're sharing it with us. All right, Stubble McShave writes, what are the chances that studios like Amazon will buy a weaker studio like Paramount when the dust settles? Also, is it possible to support theaters and studios with gift certificates as presents? I guess there's a risk that the theater will be gone. Well, I mean, it's unlikely, at least if it's the major theaters, it's unlikely the major theaters will be gone. It is very unlikely. The price tag on a Paramount would be huge. Paramount is not a weaker studio. They have had a dry season for the past couple of years. They've only had a couple of hits, not many. They've had several bombs, but I would by no means count Paramount as a weaker studio right now, not in the least. All right, Sebastian Lerda writes, hi from Argentina. Hello, Sebastian from Argentina. Thank you for watching from there. Not Oscar season, but now that Leo and Joaquin have their own, where is Viggo Mortensen's one? I think he should have won too. Only lost fairly to Daniel Day-Lewis. His performance in Captain Fantastic was great. And Green Book were stunning. Give that man his Oscar. Here's the problem, though. I don't think he should have two already. Because in those years, he lost to people who beat him. I mean, but that's what makes the Oscars so insanely difficult to win. Is not only do you need to be outstanding and fantastic, you gotta hope nobody else had a performance of the lifetime that was just a little bit more memorable than yours that one particular year. So yes, he absolutely deserved his nomination for Eastern Promises, but he wasn't gonna beat Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood that year, like not a chance in the world. And absolutely he deserved his nomination for Captain Fantastic, but you know what? He wasn't even the runner-up really, because Casey Affleck won for Manchester by the Sea, but if it wasn't gonna be Casey Affleck for Manchester by the Sea, it would have been Ryan Gosling for La La Land, and if it wasn't Ryan Gosling for La La Land, it probably would have been Denzel Washington for Fences, so you've got that to keep in mind. And while I loved him in Green Book, he was fantastic, if it wasn't Rami Malek winning for Bohemian Rhapsody, which I think that was a good win, it probably would have been Christian Bale for Vice, and if not that, then maybe Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born. So that's the thing. Viggo Mortensen is great, and he's one of the best actors out there who doesn't have an Academy Award on his mantle. He's got 3 nominations, but just each one of those years, it's not like he was snubbed. He lost to, better entries that year. But he is a guy that will probably have an Academy Award on his mantle. He's still got a lot of years of acting in front of him, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. I would be surprised if he didn't win one. But I just can't look at any one particular year and say, oh, he was snubbed that year because he was so clearly better than the person who did win. Like I said, a couple of those times, I don't even think he came in second or third place. All right, and this one comes to us from Sebastian Lerda, who writes, hi again. Another Oscar question. It's a shame that Pacino didn't get his second Oscar. That's right, he's only won one, as a matter of fact, for Scent of a Woman. So many nominations. How many noms does he have left? One of my favorite performances was in Carlito's Way. Viggo Mortensen was there as well, going back to your other question. Yeah, it is weird to think that an actor of the caliber of Al Pacino has but one Academy Award win. Now listen, there are tons of great actors who don't have any. He's got one. He's been nominated for 9 acting Academy Awards, both as lead and supporting actors. He's that good. How many nominations does he have left? Well, listen, he just got nominated this year. He's shown that he's got a powerhouse of talent still behind him, right? He's on that new Amazon show Hunters, which I have not watched yet, but everybody I'm talking to has seen it, saying Al Pacino is fabulous in it. There's a lot of people who would make an argument that Al Pacino is still in the height of his powers when it comes to his acting. So I wouldn't doubt if he's still got 4 or 5 nominations left in him. Because listen, I see him act. I don't see him losing a step. I have not seen any evidence to suggest that Al Pacino has lost a step. He is as good right now. Now, he went through a bit of a dry spell for a while, but right now, he is as good as he has ever been. So I'm thinking he could still have 3 or 4 nominations still left in him. Next one up comes us from Hayden Lee, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. I suggest everyone watch Interstellar. It's one of my all-time favorite, and Matthew is what makes the movie. I would like to know your opinion on the movie, and thanks." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Hayden. And I'm going to be honest with you. Interstellar is one of my least favorite Christopher Nolan films. Now, understand, though, Christopher Nolan hasn't made a movie yet that I don't like. I like every one of his movies. So saying it's one of the least favorite of his is not even necessarily all that bad of a thing. I like Interstellar. And honestly, I don't know another filmmaker who could have done such a high concept as that movie and done it as well. Overall, I didn't walk out of Interstellar wowed. I'll be honest with you. And I get it. I know everything that he was going for. I appreciate all the techniques he was using and what he was basically trying to do and say. But when it comes to pure execution and what he accomplished, I don't know. I just felt like it was good, but I felt like he was aiming for something even higher. So I like the film. In the world of thumbs up or thumbs down, Interstellar is a thumbs up movie for me. But again, a little bit lower on the Christopher Nolan palette for me personally. But you are not alone. I know a lot of people who just love Interstellar. I've got a buddy of mine too. It's like his second or third favorite film of all time. So there are a lot of people who do hold it in that high of regard. I like it. I think it's a good film. I do think a lot of people should see it. But again, I put it maybe just ahead of, I don't know, maybe The Dark Knight Rises. Like The Dark Knight Rises, I don't think is quite as good as Interstellar. I'd put Interstellar above it, but I can't think of many more Christopher Nolan films that I would put below it, to be honest. But that's really a testimony to just how good Christopher Nolan films have been. All right, Jason writes, "I saw that Onward will be on Disney Plus on April 3rd. Wouldn't it make more business sense to put it on iTunes, Vudu, or Blu-ray for a few months and then on Disney Plus to get some people to buy it for $20 before you can watch it with everything else for $6? Or is that just me?" Yeah, I mean, they surprised a lot of people, not by putting Onward out on video this early because the theaters are closed. It's done all the business it's going to do. I thought they could have done a re-release with Onward, but they didn't agree. They probably thought the math didn't work out. And so here we are. No movies, can't put it in the theaters. What are you going to do? But they did surprise people by announcing it's available for video today. Like you can get it today and watch it for $20. Get it today. But they also surprised by saying they would then put it out on Disney Plus on April 3rd. Here's the thing, and this is just kind of me speculating here. I've been saying for a while that I believe the studios have been trying to train the moviegoing, to condition the moviegoing audience into weaning us off of physical media. And certainly Disney would love to wean us off physical media, which they are doing. I mean, physical media is going away. You can make every argument you want about why you prefer physical media. That's great. But physical media is going away. I mean, there's just no way around that. I think Disney is trying to condition the audience more and more to not only get away from physical media, but to go to Disney Plus. And that means they're going to lose a lot of money on Onward. They are. But listen, they were going to lose. It became an unavoidable conclusion that they were going to lose money on Onward the moment that the theaters closed. There's no way around it. They're going to take a financial bath on that movie, period. So all they're trying to do now is make the best of a bad situation. They're making it available for sale today. So maybe they'll make some money on that for the next week or so, and then it's going to be on Disney Plus. And if they can get a few extra people to go, wow, well, I hadn't gotten Disney Plus yet because I'm not really a Star Wars person, so I didn't care about Mandalorian, but maybe I will sign up for it now because Onward is going right there. I mean, again, they're going to lose tons of money. There's no way around it. This is just them trying to make the best of a bad situation. To them, if they can use this terrible situation to try to promote Disney Plus a little bit more, why not take advantage of it? Anyway, all right, next up comes us from Tyler Yeats, who writes, "The MCU films we've gotten so far have been amazing. I'd like to be hopeful in thinking they'll be just as great going forward. Tough to tell. Happy Friday." But that's the thing, Tyler. When you've gotten as much success and quality as we've gotten from the MCU up until now, even if it's not quite as good, that's still great. Like I said, I keep going back to this Godfather example. we've never gotten, in my opinion, we've never gotten a crime, gangster, mafia movie as good as The Godfather. Some people may say Goodfellas. Goodfellas is amazing, but it's not The Godfather, to me at any rate. But even though we've never gotten anything as good as The Godfather, that doesn't mean we still haven't gotten excellent stuff. And I would propose that, hey, even if the MCU doesn't live up to the same level of success that it has already, that doesn't mean we don't still have great stuff in front of us. So yeah, that's just how I kind of look at it. Tyler also writes, also, I hate correcting people, which is why I haven't said anything, but my last name is pronounced like Yates. Oh, really? I've always, whenever you've written in, I didn't know how to pronounce it, so I just said Yeats. Apparently it's Yates. I will try to remember that moving forward. I will do my best to try to remember that moving forward. Javier Rios 405 writes, Onward is being released today on digital after 2 weeks. Well, I mean, yes, but it's, put an asterisk beside that. It's actually released on digital after a couple of days, and then the movie theater shut down. There's nowhere else for it to go and nothing else for it to do. Now, under normal circumstances, because of what is called the theatrical window, studios would not be allowed to put out their videos on their movies on either, VOD or on streaming in any way, shape, or form for at least 3 months or something like that. But these are very different circumstances. The movie theaters are closed. They can't be played on their theaters. Plus, from what my understanding, because I spoke to somebody in one of the theaters who said the theaters at this point really have no objection to this happening. So it's not, you can't just say, wow, Onward's being released after just a couple of weeks. No, you gotta mention the circumstances. All the movie theaters are closed, so the studio's gotta do something. I mean, they either make them available some way or they just die. So putting them out right now seems to be the smart thing to do. All right, Jason writes, my bad. I just saw Onward will be available to buy for $20 tonight. Yeah, because I was just saying it's available to buy right now, and then on April 3rd, it'll go on Disney Plus at 8 p.m. on iTunes, etc. before going to Disney Plus on April 3rd. Learn from my mistake, movie fans. Read the entire article, not just the headline, before you react. I officially retract my snark. But no, listen, Jason, your point still stands, because it's only really going to be available for a little while before coming out on Disney Plus. So I believe, even though your point, you had to modify it a little bit, but I think your point still stands. I don't think you need to apologize for that. All right, next up comes us from Major Tom, who writes, my favorite bad movies, number 1, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I named the first Mortal Kombat's a terrible movie, and I love it. Love it. So I would list the first one, but Mortal Kombat Annihilation, The Room, Transformers Last Night. Oh my God, I hate that movie. Superman 3, Highlander 2, one of the worst films ever made. Jaws 3 in 3D, by the way. Gods of Egypt, Enter the Ninja. I love Enter the Ninja. 9, Piranha, the 1978 version. Number 10, Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. Well, listen, man. That's what the definition of guilty pleasure movies are. Terrible movies that, for whatever reason, there's something about them that just appeals to us and strikes us the right way. I like your list. It's a bold list, Major Tom. It's a bold list. All right. Nick C. writes, hey, John, with the recent decision by Disney to move Onward to be released digitally tonight, do you think it was influenced by the decision of competitors such as Universal, who chose to release its slate of movies online? Thanks. I don't really know if it was influenced by that at all. I think, look, all these studios with all these movies that they have spent tens, if not hundreds in some cases, millions of dollars in marketing, and all of a sudden the movie theaters just close. They have no other recourse. There's nothing left for them. There's nothing else they can do. I think they're all basically then just put in the same position as they would have been whether the other guy did the same thing or not. It was an inevitable position. It's like, let's say you and I are walking through the desert and we've had no water and we come across a pool. Well, let's say you go on and take a drink first and then I take a drink. Was I influenced by your decision to take a drink? No, man, I was going to take a drink whether you took a drink or not. So I got a feeling this is something that they would have come to anyway. Look, this ridiculous BS situation that everybody is in right now is affecting everybody. And it put Disney in a position where they have this high profile movie that they made for like $175 million. Because of what's going on in its first weekend, which a lot of people were avoiding the theaters anyway, it only made $40 million, and then the movie theaters closed. So regardless of whether Universal went ahead and took actions that they needed to take to try to salvage what they could, Disney was also in a position that they had to take some kind of step to salvage what they could. Now, again, normally there's a theatrical window, but with the theaters being closed, that kind of takes that out of the equation, and they're just doing what they need to do. So, no, I really don't think they were influenced by Universal's decision. I think even if Universal didn't do what they did, Disney would have. And then eventually Universal would have too, because they're all kind of in the same spot right now. Anyway, everybody's just trying to make the best decisions they can for their movies in a terrible, terrible situation. It's a lose for everybody. Everybody loses. Disney loses here. And they lose by releasing Onward out like this right now. But it's the best they can do under the current circumstances. So, it is what it is. Lou writes, just want to give a shout out to my fellow retail workers keeping the shelves stocked and working long hours. Hey, listen, absolutely. If I have personally never appreciated people who work in grocery stores and stuff like that more, I've never appreciated them more. Because, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's hard to come by. Like, it's next to impossible to find toilet paper or paper towels, whatever. But you know what? I was shocked. When I go into the grocery store, which hasn't been many times since this all happened, but when I go into the grocery store, I'm shocked how stocked the stores still are. There's still plenty of stuff in there. And you know what? You guys who work in those stores, and you got to be around people, and you're putting your health at risk to make sure we have the stuff in the stores that we need to survive. I've never appreciated market workers more. So, tip of the cap to all of you guys. Thanks for saying that, Lou. That's really good of you. Next comes us from James Bonner, who writes, hey, John, I took your recommendation about Hero. I rented it on Google Play, and wow, what a spectacle for the eyes. Seeing it on the big screen must be incredible. Thanks for the tip, my movie-loving brother. I mean, right? I mean, we were just talking about Hero just a little while ago. Hero, again, it's very much Chinese classical mythology storytelling, and that will work for some people more than others. But what I guarantee you is, even if you're not into that kind of storytelling, you are just visually going to have your breath taken away. If you've never seen this thing, absolutely go and see it. Jet Li, Tony Leung, Donnie Chen, it's Zhang Ziyi. Watch this thing, even if, like, again, and if you're getting through half the movie and that kind of storytelling doesn't work for you, it does for me, maybe it won't for you, then hell, just put the movie on mute for the second half of the movie if you want, and just soak in the gorgeous visuals. It's awesome. All right, next up comes us from Frank D'Arbo, who writes, so Onward went from making $753,000 on Monday to $61,000 on Wednesday. Well, again, as the crisis was unfolding, you saw people less and less and less going to the movie theaters for sure. Star Wars, I assume you mean The Rise of Skywalker, went from $6,200 to $554, and Jojo Rabbit went from $1,200 to only $27. Well, I mean, a couple of those films have been out in theaters a long time. I mean, so there's one, but yeah, with the Onward thing, it really does kind of highlight the whole notion of the fact that we saw a dramatic drop of people going to the theaters as the corona thing got worse and worse, as people became more and more aware of how bad the problem was. And we saw in that time period, like the sports league shutting down and all that kind of stuff. So definitely had a big impact. Dylan Valenti writes, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. I believe that's Apocalypse Now, if I'm not mistaken. Dylan also writes, from Apocalypse Now, I finally watched it. So yes, it was from Apocalypse Now. Terry Giordano writes, hey, John and Rob, looking forward to watching Onward. I mean, yeah, that is one of the really good things, because Onward really only had that very, very short window in theaters amidst a lot of the people starting to get scared about the crisis and all that kind of stuff. And then it was just gone. And then movie theaters are shut. And so they didn't get a chance to see it. So one of the silver linings right now of the fact we're all stuck at home and all this stuff is that it is now out on video on demand. You can watch it right now. If you just don't want to see it on video on demand, you only have to wait a little while until it's out on Disney Plus. So again, silver linings. Next up, Simon writes, please, Rob, who is unfortunately not here, would you give us the eloquent reason that you gave on Robservation Season 2, Episode 365 of why Picard is a letdown from what Star Trek has been prior to the current version? Well, I mean, obviously he's not here. He doesn't like it. But here's the thing. All he can do is tell why for him it didn't work. Then I could sit here and give you a 15-minute thing about why it is fantastic, right? But all we can do as film fans is tell you why it does work for us, or conversely, why it doesn't work for others. So anyway, yeah, there's that. But unfortunately, Rob is not here right now. All right, Dylan Valenti writes, Robert Meyer Burnett, what cut of Apocalypse Now do you prefer? I believe I heard him say, well, he's not here right now to answer himself. I believe I heard him say he liked I forget the actual name they give the director's cut. I can't remember the name they gave for it, but I believe he said before that he preferred that one, I think. Let's see. Renee Scarlet Hooks writes, yesterday someone wrote in about the Phantom of the Paradise. Rob, since John never heard of it, can you give a rundown of the gold that is that film? Again, unfortunately, Rob is not here right now. DGMC writes, hey, Rob, a lot of questions for Rob's who's not here right now. Do you think that Americanized Akira remake could work with the story being an alternate timeline where Japan dropped the atomic bomb on New York City? That's getting kind of specific. But listen, anything can work. And an Americanized Akira can work. Any denial of such is, look, a lot of people I'm sure would have said, well, first of all, a lot of people weren't familiar with Infernal Affairs, even though it's like the greatest cop movie of all time. But I'm sure a lot of people would have said at the time when Martin Scorsese was going to do a North American remake saying, you can't. That's an Asian film, man. You can't do it. Yes, you can. And it works both ways too. You can get, Asian versions of an American film and have it work too. So yes, it absolutely can. Will it work? Well, that becomes the bigger question. Because we've all seen like American remakes of Asian film that have not worked. But at the same time, we've seen some get remade and win the Academy Award for Best Picture. I mean, there's 1,000 ways it could go wrong. Absolutely. But it could also be a Best Picture of the Year contender. So don't let anybody tell you there's no way that it could work. It could. It could also go terribly bad. But hey, it goes both ways. All right. D308X writes, what are your thoughts of WrestleMania being 2 nights? Also, you should give AEW a chance. They're great, and they proved last Wednesday that by how they handled the no crowd thing, made a great show. Well, listen, actually, I have tried out AEW because Ann and Corey get together and watch wrestling all the time. And they will sometimes watch AEW as well. And AEW is really entertaining. AEW is really great. The WrestleMania thing to me is still odd. First of all, Ann and Corey had like Monday Night Raw on the other night, and they did it without an audience, and it was just weird. Like, it's one thing to watch something like a real sport like UFC, and it's just the guys competing in the ring. It's the same business as usual. But like so much of wrestling, you forget how much of wrestling is all just the showmanship and playing to the audience. And watching it was like weird because, I saw Stone Cold Steve Austin came into the ring and got up on the turnbuckles like he always does, because Stone Cold does the same thing. He comes out to the ring, pops open beers, jumps up on the corner, on the turnbuckles in the corner, raises his beers to the audience, goes across, raises his beer to the audience, and he's doing it in an empty arena. And then, like, half the time when wrestlers do moves or whatever, then they turn to the audience and scream to the audience. Like, so much of it is showmanship to the audience. And honestly, I just found watching it, because, Ann and Corey were watching, so I stuck my nose in. I was watching it for a bit. It just felt weird. Like, really, really weird. And so now they've got, like, Gronk is going to be hosting the Oscars. Okay. So you got Gronkowski hosting the Oscars. I love Gronkowski's, but Gronkowski hosting WrestleMania, not the Oscars. Hosting WrestleMania. And it's being done over 2 nights. Okay, so you're going to do it over 2 nights. I don't know. Frankly, it just seems like they just should cancel it. Or at worst, postpone it. Postpone it till September or something like that. It just, I don't know. I've got a feeling it's going to be cringy. And is anybody going to buy a pay-per-view for that? I don't really know, but it just seems like an odd choice. Okay, next up, R. Lee writes, the National Association of Theater Owners is now asking Congress for a bailout to remain solvent until they can open again. I'm really worried about if they can hang on. 4 months is a long time, and it's true. It's absolutely true. And we were talking about that yesterday, about how there are some analysts saying, we don't see how AMC survives this. And then I had a friend of mine who is an industry insider kind of tell me there's no way studios will let the movie theaters close. Like, the studios themselves would probably put up money to keep the theater because they need the theaters in business. If the theaters aren't there, the studios make no money because there's no real money in home video stuff and stuff like that. They need the theaters. So it's interesting. Now, I am generally against bailouts. Sometimes they are necessary for the sake of the economy. But this is not a normal bailout situation. Like, this isn't like, oh no, our industry isn't doing well, please government bail us out. It's like, well, I mean, if your industry isn't doing well, maybe that means the society's ready to move on from your industry and look normally. But this isn't one of those situations. This isn't like the movie theaters are going to the government saying, oh, boo-hoo, we're not doing well, can you help us out? This is a radically unique and horrible set of circumstances that is affecting everybody. And the movie theaters, I would argue, are not just a big part of the economy, because they drive a lot of money, right? But on top of that, they're important for our culture. Like, movie theaters are just important pieces of our culture as well. And again, this isn't a traditional bailout situation where, oh, this industry, you're not doing well in your business. No, we're not just going to save you. If you're not doing well, you're not doing well. This is, everything's been shut down and we're shut down. And if we are shut down for too long, we're just not going to be solvent anymore. So I'm okay with it. Actually, and listen, I'm not saying give them all the money in the world, but I'm actually okay with it because, again, I do believe that the movie theater industry is important for our economy, but I also believe it's important for us culturally. So, and again, they're in this position right now through no fault of their own. This is the coronavirus thing. It's through no fault of their own. So yeah, I'm actually all for it. I'm actually all for it, even though normally I'm not. This, to me, there's so many things that make this situation unique that I'm actually okay with it right now. All right, next up, Throg on the Short Bus writes, last drive-in, we were talking about drive-ins a little bit earlier today, I was 30 years ago. We had a leftover keg from our high school graduation party we threw at a dive hotel. We saw Misery and The Doors. That's like Val Kilmer at his best, was in The Doors. Anyway, sold refillable red Solo cups for $2, and half of us snuck in via trunk. Still two of my favorites with Misery and The Doors. That's a great double feature. But yeah, you got to go that far back for when a lot of people go. Or a lot of people have went to the drive-ins. There's still some around. I think they said there's still about 300 in existence in America. At one point, it would have been much larger than that, but there's like 300 left in existence in America. But a lot of us, even me, who speak really fondly of drive-ins, have to admit it's been a long time since I've gone. And maybe, the new situation with people not being able to go to regular movie theaters. Hey, get in the car, roll up the windows, go, bring a cooler in the truck, watch movies, and you're still going out to the movies. And I just can't help but wonder if it might reignite, some people's passion for the drive-in. Some people sent in stats today, like 10 of the 14 highest grossing movie theaters this week, because most movie theaters are closed, but still 10 of the top 14 were drive-in theaters. And, some drive-in theaters around are reporting triple the amount of business that they've normally done. And I don't know if it will or not, but wouldn't it be great if it got people into drive-in theaters again? Anyway, Campea's Magical Milk Bag writes, funny that you brought up the topic of drive-in theaters today. My fiance and I, who just had to postpone our wedding due to the pandemic, had our first kiss at a drive-in movie theater. Oh, that's a nice story. And it's funny. Ann and I were just actually talking today about a wedding we were supposed to go to in 2 weeks that, friends of ours that had to postpone their wedding because of it. So right now they've pushed it to August. Hopefully August is going to be here and they're going to be able to do the wedding and everything, no problem. But yeah, sorry that your wedding had to get postponed. It's inconveniencing so many people in so many ways, and it really sucks you got to postpone your wedding. But hey, you're still together. That's the important thing. And I hope you guys have a great wedding when it does happen. All right. Sebastian Lerda writes, my recommendation for the community is the Before trilogy is great with Handsome Hawk. From Richard Linklater, Before Sunset is my top 10 movies. Love them so much. It's funny because tons of people have not watched those movies at all, and they're fantastic. And those who have seen it, a lot of them put those movies in the conversation of the greatest trilogies of all time. They're really great, and you're right. This is a good chance for a lot of people, since everybody's stuck at home, to go check them out. All right, and this one comes to us from Walks with Joe, who writes, movies that were better than the books. Lord of the Rings? Ooh. Yeah, not The Hobbit. The book was much better than the Hobbit movies. But Lord of the Rings, as great as Lord of the Rings is, the books, I thought the movies did them more than justice. So I'd say that. I would also suggest the first couple of Hunger Games movies. I thought the first couple of Hunger Games movies were better than the books. Now, right now, there's a bunch of people screaming at the computer monitors. John, how dare you? I know, but honestly, I thought the first couple of movies were better than the books. I thought the final book was better than the last movie or two. I can't remember if they split the last one in two or not. But anyway, wasn't a big fan of the final two. But yeah, I thought the first two were good too. McClunky writes, for movie recommendations, how about the criminally underrated The Adventures of Tintin? We were just talking about that earlier. Produced by Peter Jackson, directed by the legendary Steven Spielberg. It's a really fun animated adventure in the vein of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Stay safe. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. Rob really does like Tintin quite a bit. I liked it too. The thing is, they have said for years, like, look, the plan from the beginning, I don't know if a lot of people remember this. The plan from the beginning was that Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson were going to team up on 2 Tintin movies. And one of them, Peter Jackson would produce and Steven Spielberg would direct. And then the other, Steven Spielberg would produce and Peter Jackson would direct. And it's been forever. So they keep saying, Steven Spielberg and Peter Jackson both keep saying, oh yeah, we're going to make that other Tintin movie. I really have my doubts at this point. Now, I'm not saying that it won't happen. I'm just saying right now, I'm having serious doubts it's going to happen. But anyway, you and a lot of other people look like you can keep your fingers crossed and maybe they'll finally get around to doing that second one. All right. Jeff Crow writes, A Quiet Place 2 was supposed to come out today. That's true. It was. And I am bummed out not being able to watch it because of the shutdown. My question is, when the theaters start opening back up, will A Quiet Place 2 be one of the first films to release or new release date? It's going to be your new release date because what's going to happen is, especially for a movie like that, they're going to want to ramp up another marketing campaign. For a big movie like Quiet Place 2, which is not as big as like an Avatar movie or an MCU movie or a Star Wars movie, but it's a big movie. Studios are going to want to have time to revamp up a marketing campaign to make people aware of when it's coming back and all that kind of stuff. So I have a feeling that the theaters aren't going to open and all of a sudden magically Quiet Place 2 is going to drop in there. I think the studios will want to get a sense of when the theater is going to open back up. Then they're going to set a new release date and probably give themselves a good 3-month buffer. I'm guessing maybe 2 months, probably closer to 3, but maybe 2. And then they're going to want a little bit of a marketing campaign. Now, who knows? They may surprise us and just say, okay, theaters are open. Let's get it in there. But I think we're probably going to have a little bit of a wait for that. And by the way, Jeff, I'm just noticing that you put in a $50 donation. Thank you so much for that, dude. That's such a generous way to support the channel. And when people do support the channel with $50 or more, not only do we answer the question in a video, but then we make their question their own standalone video as well. So keep your eyes open over the next week or two, Jeff, because we will be doing your $50 question as its own standalone question here pretty soon. Keep your eyes open for that. And thank you again for supporting the channel on that level. All right. Sebastian Lerner writes, really cool show today, guys. Thank you so much. Having a lot of fun. Epic sound. Jurassic Park. Oh, the T-Rex roar. Yeah, Rob and I were talking earlier today. Somebody had sent in a question about like some real like epic and memorable and iconic sound effects from movies. And somebody was asking like favorite sound from or favorite sound of a weapon. And I was like, oh, lightsaber. Easy, lightsaber. And then Rob started talking about the TIE fighter sounds, and we started talking about Star Trek sounds. The Jurassic Park T-Rex roar. That's a good one. That's got to be up there too. Paul Lee writes, my Star Trek sound? Door swoosh. Yeah, there's that too, because I made a prediction that if we asked Rob what is his most iconic like Star Trek sound, I thought he was going to make the ambient noise of the bridge, but he gave an even better answer. He said the transporter sound. I mean, obviously that's the sound to go with. But when he was saying that, Paul, I got to tell you, that's what was going through my head too. That whoosh, that door swoosh sound of the bridge opening and the doors on the cabins and all that kind of stuff. That sound, absolutely, you could hear it and I'll instantly know that's from Star Trek. So that's a good one too, Paul. All right. The New World writes, if Warner Brothers had to choose between a Harry Potter movie and a Batman movie, which one will they choose? Please don't say that would make a great 8-minute YouTube video. Oh, no. Now, if you just say, hey, do you think Warner Brothers could make a Batman and Harry Potter movie? That I would say would make an interesting YouTube video. But if they had to choose, if Warner Brothers, moving forward, had to choose, they could only do one, a Harry Potter movie or a Batman movie, they're going to do Batman. There's a lot of upside to doing Harry Potter, for sure. But they would absolutely choose Batman. I have no doubt whatsoever. They already have chosen Batman, really, in many ways, shapes, and forms. So yeah, they would choose Batman. And again, I'm not saying Batman's better than Harry Potter or anything like that. I do think Batman's better than Harry, but that's not my point. I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that Batman's better than Harry Potter. I'm just saying, if you're asking me what I think Warner Brothers would do if they had to choose between making either a Harry Potter movie or a Batman movie, they're making a Batman movie. Mo Show writes in, top musical films I love and love the soundtrack for: Greatest Showman, love Greatest Showman, Singing in the Rain, classic, Sweeney Todd, Les Miserables, Fiddler on the Roof, and Tradition, and Hairspray. And for me, I always have to throw in Moulin Rouge. I mean, Moulin Rouge is like a pet project movie of mine. I want more people to watch Moulin Rouge. The movie is amazing. Yes, it's a musical and all that kind of stuff, but Nicole Kidman, Ewan McGregor, so freaking good in that movie. You got to check those out, but I like every single one of the ones. I love a couple of the ones you got on your list there, Mosho. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Throg's Canadian Girlfriend writes, recommendation, Cronenberg's Existenz, way, way, way underrated, criminally so. I gotta admit, I was never that big on it. Now let me just go and make sure it's the right movie, because I believe Handsome Hawk is in that one as well. If I'm thinking of the right movie, Existenz, 1999, and it is. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of a completely different movie. It was not the Handsome Hawk movie. It's the one with Jude Law, Ian Holm from the aforementioned Hobbit, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Willem Dafoe. That totally, now I know the one you're talking about. I was not big on that movie. I was not big on this movie. Now, granted, I probably haven't seen this movie in like 20 years. To be honest, I probably haven't seen it in like 20 years. But if I'm remembering it right, and remember, a minute ago, I thought it was a Handsome Hawk movie. I don't remember me liking it that much, which might go very much to your whole point of saying that it might be actually underrated. So you might be right about that. All right, J Master writes, hey, John, following my saying on the new LG Stylo 5 draw chat feature, this allows you to text with people by using the stylus pen. It's almost similar to texting, but the difference, the draw chat feature allows you to write for 8 seconds only. Really? So it's kind of like you can, I mean, I'm having a hard time imagining what that's like, because right now I can pull out my Galaxy Note 10 Plus, write a note and text it to somebody and then get my handwritten note. So I'm guessing this is like live, like as I'm drawing something, you'll see the mark moving and everything. So I'm guessing it's like that, but you've got me you brought it up earlier on the show, and I am fascinated. I'm going to go look this thing up because I wasn't even familiar that the Stylo 5 was coming. So I'm going to go hop on YouTube when I'm done this, and I'm going to look up, because you got me really, really fascinated about this feature. I'm going to want to check it out. Thanks for that, man. All right, next up, Jaron Morris writes, John, do you remember Henry and Sam from Last of Us? The two brothers, Joel and Ellie, came to meet. Oh my God, that cabin scene with them was amazing and heartbreaking. Were they brothers? I kind of had a little bit in my head. Were they father and son? I don't know. Maybe they were big brother and little brother. And I don't remember exactly. Yeah, maybe they were big brother and little brother. Oh, and it's devastating. It's heartbreaking. I mean, they kind of foreshadowed it for you. You got to see that he had the injury, right? So you kind of knew what was going to happen. But the way it all went down, it was absolutely brutal and heartbreaking, and it was powerful stuff, man. It was absolutely powerful stuff. Jaron Morris also writes, also, as a father who has lost a daughter, oh, dude, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's awful, dude. Anyway, I don't even know how to keep reading after reading that. I'm so sorry to hear that. Anyway, I have met the voice actors of Joel and Ellie, and Neil Druckmann, he's the guy who runs Last of Us, and shared my story and how much it has a special place in my heart. That's why I understood Joel's decision at the end of Last of Us 2. That's one of two. Then he writes, and I would understand if people decided to go the other way and sacrifice Ellie for the world. Such an amazing ending. You know what? Here is my movie recommendation, and it's the Last of Us cutscene movie. And I have seen it and watched it and actually reviewed it. It was like, if I remember it correctly, it was like a 16-hour version that I watched or something stupid like that. But the ending is insane. And a lot of people, I don't want to give too much away, but you just kind of did, and that's fine. But the ending is a thing that's had a lot of debate. And like a lot of people say, oh, that's stupid the way that ended, because clearly, I mean, it's better for, yeah, but sometimes we as human beings are put in positions where we're not going to think logically, right? We're not going to think logically. Look, if I was put in some like ridiculously awful situation where I could let my wife Anne die, and in letting her die, it would save 100 people. Okay, well, logically, logic dictates. What the common sense thing is, to quote Spock, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one, right? That makes sense. But guess what? If I'm in that situation and I need to make a decision, like I don't have 3 months to sit down and think about it. I had to make a decision right there. I don't know how I don't save Anne instead, even if that meant 100 other people. I mean, that doesn't make sense, but that's real life. If we're in that situation and we're trying to decide what to do like that. And that's why I thought there was something very true to the heart with the ending of Last of Us. So anyway, man, thank you for sharing that story. And you're right, it's absolutely powerful. And that scene with the brothers was heart-wrenching, absolutely heart-wrenching. All right, Nick C writes, The Wrap published an article claiming Warner Brothers is debating a direct-to-video release for Wonder Woman 84. There isn't a chance it happens. Thoughts? I can't see it happens. Remember, Charles Roven, I believe, is the one who actually himself said, no way in hell that happens. There's just, we would be destroyed financially. It makes no financial sense to do that, blah, 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 blah. But let me say this. As impossible as it seems to put a Wonder Woman 84 direct to video, and it is next to impossible, the reality is the current circumstances are creating scenarios that we have never had in the movie theater industry before, right? Right now, I think Wonder Woman 84 is supposed to come out in July or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. That's still a little ways off, but we're talking about a movie that should really be ramping up its marketing campaign right now. You can't spend 30 or 40 or 50 or $70 million on a marketing campaign right now for a release date that you don't even know for sure you're going to be able to hit, you know? I mean, hopefully the theaters will all be open by then, but they don't know that they will be. And so what do? It's a tough conundrum. Listen, from what I hear, they're not seriously talking about it. I think they're saying like only a couple of people have discussed it, that they still just want to put it out in theaters, blah, blah, blah. But we are living in a circumstance, in a situation where all the normal rules go out the window. And while under any normal circumstances, it's preposterous to even suggest that they would take a movie like Wonder Woman 84 and put it out on streaming. Under normal circumstances, that's the most idiotic thing ever in the world. And it's still a very far-fetched idea, but the reality is we're in such a unique and weird and, paradigm-shifting set of circumstances right now that normal rules kind of don't apply. And while it is still ridiculously unlikely that Warner Brothers would put Wonder Woman 84 just direct out to video and VOD, given the current climate and given these very unique set of unprecedented circumstances, normal logic goes out the window, and you can't say it's impossible. Highly unlikely, but not impossible. Again, we got to get this whole thing behind us before we get back to normal. All right, BW Rosas writes, my apologies. The question I was asking on April 20th or March 20th was about Universal releasing movies like Trolls World Tour. Do you think this could become a new trend? No, nothing that happens right now. For those of you who don't know what BW Rosas is asking about, Trolls World Tour, which is the sequel to the movie Trolls, was supposed to come out in theaters here pretty soon. Studio decided to just, with all the theaters shut down right now, don't even know when it's coming out. This was a movie that wasn't going to make a ton of money anyway because the audience response to all the marketing has been much lower than it was to the original Trolls. Anyway, the studio made the decision they're just going to go straight to video. Could this become a trend? No, nothing that is happening right now should we at all interpret as becoming trend setting. This is a radically awkward, weird, unprecedented set of circumstances where movie theaters simply aren't open and they don't even know when they'll be open. And that's creating a huge thing of uncertainty so that a movie like, say, Trolls, unlike, say, Wonder Woman 1984, which they know when they get that thing in movie theaters, it's going to make, even in a bad day, it's going to make X amount of dollars, right? Trolls World Tour was a movie that had not been tracking well. Like, it hadn't been tracking well at all. As a matter of fact, before they pulled it off the release schedule, Trolls World Tour was tracking to make less than half of what the first Trolls made on its opening weekend. So they're talking about it making somewhere between 17 and like $20 million on its opening weekend, well below the like 43, 44, 45 million dollars that the original Trolls made on its opening weekend. That's some bad numbers. So it put them in a position of, what do we do? The theaters are closed. We don't know how long we're going to have to wait. Once the theaters open, when we don't know when that's going to be, where do we fit it in amongst a busy movie season? How much money do we want to spend on marketing this? And so they were in a very unique situation. They decided, let's just put it straight to video. And again, it's being done in an unprecedented, weird, oddly unique and extremely rare circumstance that we've never had before in the movies. So no decision that any studio or whatever right now makes should be considered as a new trend or any sort of trend setting at all. Next up, K Major writes, "Hey John, I'll get to you later. Robert, my buddy, my bro, you shocked the hell out of me when you said you hate Hook, but then you said you hate the Goonies. Dude, did you get jumped by a pack of 13-year-olds? What's next? You punch puppies on the weekend? Just kidding, buddy. All film is subjective. Just caught me off guard." Oh, dude, listen, it catches me off guard every time. First of all, there are a lot of people, to be fair to Rob, there are a lot of people who don't like Hook. I don't understand that. I think Hook is magical. I love that movie. Bangarang, dude. Bangarang. That aside, then he said he hates the Goonies. But look, that is, as you pointed out, K Major, that's film, buddy. That's movies. There are movies we love that other people don't, and movies we hate that other people love. And that's the subjectivity of film. It hits us all in different ways. And while that is true, it still in no less shocks me, K Major, when I hear people say they hate Hook or hate the Goonies. I'm totally there too. But hey, we all, like me, right? Blade Runner. Blade Runner is a totally beloved film, and it doesn't work for me. I don't like Blade Runner. So, I mean, we all have those films. We all have 10, 20 movies that most people love that just doesn't work for us. And that's just the movies. All right, next up, an anonymous viewer writes in, "Hello, John. Here's my Star Trek movie list. Number 1, Wrath of Khan, I agree. Number 2, Undiscovered Country, I agree. Number 3, First Contact. Number 4, Voyage Home. Number 5, I would put Voyage Home as, I might even put Voyage Home as number 2. Yeah, I might do Wrath of Khan 1, Voyage Home 2, Undiscovered Country 3. After that, it's anybody's guess. But anyway, number 5, Trek 2009. Number 6, Beyond. Number 7, Generations. Number 8, Insurrection. Number 9, Into Darkness. Number 10, Search for Spock. Number 11, Nemesis. And number 12, I think you probably meant 12, Final Frontier. Yeah, listen, I gotta admit, I'm a Star Trek fan. I don't love a lot of the movies. But I mean, Wrath of Khan, Voyage Home, Undiscovered Country, love. And I really do like the J.J. Abrams era ones too. Star Trek 2009, Star Trek, what's the latest one called again? Is it Beyond? Star Trek Beyond? I really did like that one a lot. And I even kind of dig Into Darkness. I do. It has some really stupid parts, so I dig Into Darkness. But hey, yeah. So the opening of your list is very, very similar to mine, Anonymous. Very similar. All right, Morris Codes writes, "Growing up, we had a great drive-in about 10 minutes from our home, Skyview Drive-In. Before it closed, they'd even upgrade to transmitting the audio directly to your car stereo, but it closed years ago, and now the closest is over 50 miles away." And that is one of the unfortunate things, is that drive-ins just went out of style, and they started disappearing. And like I said, the last I read, there were less than 300 still in existence in America, which means a lot of people are going to have like the closest drive-in to them be 50, 70, 100 miles away. And that really does suck. But I mean, I'm sitting here saying it sucks, but I haven't gone to the drive-in forever, even though I really have fond memories of it. But yeah, one of the things that drive-ins did a while ago was they started upgrading from these can speakers. I remember my parents would take us to the drive-in, these can speakers that it would hang in your window, to actually broadcasting on an FM frequency so you can tune in on your car stereo and actually get pretty decent sound. But yeah, it is one of the sad things about it. And again, hopefully, one of the silver linings in this awful BS that we're in right now will be maybe people will get drive-in theaters back on their radars again. I know I'm planning on going. I'm planning on going to the drive-in, so here's hoping a lot of people will. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, "When Ahsoka meets Mando, because it was announced, well, at least it hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but we are getting reports that Rosario Dawson is playing Ahsoka Tano in Mandalorian Season 2. I don't like it because I don't like the character, but I'm not surprised at all because Dave Filoni has a complete weird obsession with that character, whatever. But even I got to admit, as somebody who doesn't like the character at all, I have to admit, getting Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano, that's perfect casting. It's perfect casting. I can't imagine better casting than that. But at any rate, oh yeah, you're totally the son of this guy I knew named Boba Fett. Trust me, this was all planned from the start. And I can't believe I have to say this. Don't do that, Disney. We actually know you would. And you're probably right about that, Ryan. You are probably right. But again, I'm not surprised at all. Anything Dave Filoni has anything to do with, he's got this weird obsession with this character that I don't like, and he's going to put this character in every single thing he possibly can. So whatever. But you know, it doesn't matter. This casting is borderline perfection. It's borderline perfection. So you can't deny it. Even me, who hates the character, I got to say that's pretty much perfect casting. Got to admit it. So, hey, let's see. Let's find out if it's actually true. Because again, none of this has been officially confirmed by either Lucasfilm or Rosario Dawson herself. As of this recording, nobody official has confirmed it. And the one downside of this, though, is this. One of the great things about The Mandalorian was they kept the Baby Yoda thing completely under wraps. And so when Baby Yoda happened, everybody was like, "Ooh!" And it created this great moment. The kind of unfortunate thing, again, it doesn't matter for me because I don't care about this character, but there are a lot of people who love this character. And I feel bad for them because I have a feeling if this is true, this is probably something Lucasfilm wanted to keep under wraps. This is probably something that, like Baby Yoda, Lucasfilm wanted to have as a surprise when people watch it, because I may not care about this character, but there are a lot of people, a lot of Star Wars fans who love this character. And it would have been such a great treat for those fans to just be watching Mandalorian Season 2, and at some point, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano pops up. I wouldn't like it, but that's just me. There are a lot of fans who would have loved it. And I can't help but feel really bad for them at this point. But I mean, still, it is what it is. I don't blame any news place breaking the story. That's what news places are supposed to do. Break stories if they find out. But let's find out if it's actually true. Like I said, as of this recording, there's no confirmation that it is true. These are just reports coming out from pretty good sources, but still not the official stuff yet. So I suspect if it is true, we'll find out officially here pretty quick. But yeah, again, I can't argue with the casting, man. It is pretty much brilliant casting. All right, and the final question today, and then we'll wrap this up, comes to us from Confused Jedi, who writes, John, have you heard the rumor that Slash Film is reporting that Rosario Dawson has been confirmed as a... Well, okay, confirmed means that the studio has said, yes, that's true. And that hasn't happened yet. Once they do, then it is confirmed. But yes, Slash Film, which is a pretty reliable place, is reporting this. As Ahsoka Tano, Mandalorian Season 2, thoughts, cheers, in seclusion. Well, I've already kind of given my thoughts on it, so everything that I just said before. But again, remember, it's as reliable as Slash Film is, and they're one of the good ones. It's not confirmed until the studio verifies it. If the studio or the director or the actors involved verify it themselves. And I'm saying, as maybe by the time you watch this, it does get confirmed. As of this recording, it hadn't been confirmed yet. But again, Slash Film's one of the good ones. So I'm going to go on the assumption that it is true. And if it is, just same thoughts as before. I mean, it's a character I don't care about. It's a character I don't like. But it is, if you're going to use this character, you can't come up with better casting than this. You can't. And again, I just feel sorry for people who are fans, and there are a lot of them. I just feel bad for people who are fans if this was meant to be a big surprise. But hey, that's the entertainment business. That happens. Okay, guys, that will do it for this installment of the companion videos. We are now all caught up on all the questions you guys sent in. Guys, thank you so much for sending in the questions, because two things. Number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about, but number two, you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here associated with the John Campea Show and the John Campea YouTube channel, all of us, thank you so much for your support, guys. All right, that will do it for me. Don't forget, it is Friday that this video is coming out. On Saturday, we are going to have open mic on Saturday. Make sure you join us. Make sure you give a thumbs up to this video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hope you guys are all staying well entertained as you're keeping yourselves in seclusion as we get through all this nonsense that's going on. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.